The Democratic Party, I do think, understands that they are at an existential moment. Parties don't have to survive. The Whigs came and went and others, and they understand they're not going to win with the AOC wing.
Why is it that the Democrats didn't look at the reasons they lost and then try to come more to the middle? Instead,
they're doing it finally.
Not AOC.
On the latest Club Random podcast, Bill Maher sat down with Jillian Michaels for a heated discussion about AOC and the future of the Democratic Party heading into 2028. The conversation focused on whether Democrats can win with progressive figures like AOC becoming more influential inside the party. Maher argued the DNC is trying to move closer to the center after recent election losses, while Jillian Michaels questioned whether the party is actually changing direction. The debate became one of the most intense moments of the interview, with both sides strongly defending their views on the Democratic Party, woke politics, and voter appeal going forward. There's a lot to unpack in this discussion, so let's get into it.
The frontrunner followed close, I guess not a close second, but then
that's just name recognition.
Okay, fair, and one would hope, honestly, because I've been underwhelmed by her for quite some time, whether you like her or not.
AOC, talking about Kamala?
Yeah.
Oh, totally underwhelming.
But then the next one in line is AOC.
I mean, I voted for her, but totally underwhelming.
Bill Maher and Jillian Michaels were already deep into a heated debate over the Democrats' response to the recent ICE controversy when the conversation took a sharp turn toward Kamala Harris and AOC. Maher argued the DNC ignored clear voter frustration by continuing to push Kamala Harris despite major concerns about her popularity and electability. According to Maher, Democrats paid the political price for refusing to read the room after the last election. Then Jillian Michaels brought up AOC, and the entire discussion instantly escalated. She questioned whether Democrats are once again doubling down on the same progressive politics that many voters already rejected, suggesting AOC represents a continuation of the party's most controversial direction. Maher pushed back hard, arguing the Democratic Party knows it cannot survive nationally if keeps drifting further left. But Jillian wasn't buying it, pointing to the growing influence of progressive figures inside the party. What started as a political discussion quickly turned into a blunt and intense clash over the future of the Democratic Party, voter frustration, and whether the DNC is heading toward another major political mistake.
Why is it that the Democrats didn't look at the reasons they lost and then try to come more to the middle? Instead,
they're doing it finally.
Not AOC, not
Jillian Michaels didn't hold back for a second. She argued the Democratic Party is facing a full-blown political identity crisis and warned that voters are growing increasingly frustrated with the party's direction. Bill Maher claimed Democrats understand they can't keep moving further left if they want to win nationally again. But Jillian immediately challenged that argument with a direct shot at the DNC. If Democrats are really trying to move back toward the center, why does AOC continue to become one of the party's biggest rising figures? That question instantly changed the energy of the conversation. Maher defended his position, insisting party leaders know progressive politics alone won't win over mainstream voters. Jillian pushed back hard, arguing the DNC still appears deeply tied to its activist wing despite clear warning signs from recent elections. What followed was a blunt and intense debate over whether Democrats are actually learning from past losses, or heading even deeper into the same political strategy that continues to divide voters across the country.
Taibbi, he can be so funny. I think it was him with the funniest line. He said, AOC is practically a police sketch drawing of what Americans don't want for president.
Jillian Michaels argued that the Democratic Party still appears heavily tied to progressive politics despite repeated claims that it's trying to move back toward the political center. She pointed directly to AOC's growing influence as evidence that the party's direction may not be changing as much as Democratic leaders claim. Michaels contrasted AOC with Kamala Harris, arguing that Harris often avoided taking clear public positions on controversial issues, while AOC openly embraces many of the progressive policies and activist messaging that continue to divide voters. The conversation also expanded beyond AOC, touching on broader criticism of Democratic leadership and whether image, messaging, and media appeal have started to outweigh policy results in modern politics. Bill Maher pushed back on some of those arguments, insisting Democrats understand the political risks of moving too far left nationally. But Michaels questioned whether the party's actions actually reflect that concern. The exchange became one of the sharpest moments of the interview, turning into a direct debate over whether the Democratic Party is genuinely shifting strategy, or still deeply influenced by its most progressive voices.
But it's 2025. The election isn't for 3 years. This means nothing.
You know what it is?
This means nothing.
It's the fact that I thought
they're not going to do it. I would bet my house on that. They are not going to go that route.
Bill Maher may believe the Democratic Party will eventually move back toward the center, but more voices inside political media are openly questioning that assumption. During previous appearances on Club Random and Real Time, multiple guests, including Don Lemon, pointed to AOC as one of the Democratic Party's possible future leaders. And now Jillian Michaels is raising the same concern, arguing that AOC's growing influence inside the party is becoming harder to ignore. That's why this debate matters. Maher continues to argue the DNC understands the political danger of leaning too far into progressive activism. But critics of the party believe the opposite may already be happening, pointing to rising support for figures like AOC as evidence that the Democratic base is still moving further left, not back toward the center. The discussion also touched on Gavin Newsom, with comparisons being made between traditional polished political messaging and the more aggressive, activist-driven energy that has helped AOC build a strong national following. What made the conversation intense was the bigger question. Underneath it all, is the Democratic Party preparing to shift strategies after recent losses? Or is it heading even deeper into the same political direction that continues to divide voters and fuel backlash across the country?
The Democratic Party wants to survive.
Bill Maher argues an AOC-led ticket would be a serious risk for Democrats, and says the party understands the danger of moving too far left. But critics point out he's warned the DNC before about Biden and Kamala Harris, with little change in strategy. Now the same debate is back with AOC. Maher says Democrats must stay closer to the center to win nationally, while others argue the party's progressive wing still has strong influence. To its core, the discussion is about one key question. Is the Democratic Party really changing after recent losses, or still stuck in the same direction?
The party does, as they say in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. I see it out here with the groundhogs in my lawn. I see it with the
Democrats.
With the ducks. I have ducks, and they go in the pool, and I yell at them, and they get out.
AOC's approval ratings are reportedly surging, even matching or surpassing Donald Trump in some polls. That level of momentum is not small. It signals real political energy behind her brand. Supporters aren't just backing her, they're responding to her image. Young, outspoken, and unapologetically bold, AOC has built a political identity that thrives in the social media era. She leans into her working-class background and uses it as part of her political narrative. In today's politics, personality often matters more than traditional qualifications. Optics, messaging, and media presence can outweigh policy depth, and AOC has mastered that formula. Some analysts and media voices argue this is exactly why her influence keeps growing inside the Democratic Party. They say a significant portion of the Democratic base is clearly drawn to her style and energy, even if her approach divides opinion. Whether that momentum benefits the party long-term is still an open question, but one thing is clear. The
It's going to be a bitter pill for the Latinx, gluten-free, non-binary Hamas lovers in the party, but they're just going to have to swallow hard at the end of the day.
A vote for AOC, critics argue, is a vote for a more openly progressive, woke direction in Democratic politics. She doesn't avoid that label, and her supporters fully embrace it as part of her political identity. From that perspective, opponents say rejecting her wouldn't shock much of the country, especially as many voters feel exhausted by years of identity politics, cancel culture debates, and constant cultural conflict. They argue that much of the public is burned out, tired of being lectured, blamed, or pressured by shifting social standards, and frustrated with what they see as a focus on messaging over real-world results. This is where some supporters of Trump point to his political impact, saying he resonated with voters by breaking through political correctness and speaking more directly, appealing to those who felt ignored or restricted in public discourse. The broader argument being made is simple. Voters don't want more division or ideological extremes. They want clarity, stability, and leadership focused on outcomes. Critics of AOC claim she represents the opposite of that direction, while supporters see her as a voice for a changing political era. Even within media commentary, There are warnings that this divide could create serious challenges for the Democratic Party moving forward.
This is the generic ballot test. This is when you test people in a generic question. Of course, the House races aren't generic. There are 435 of them. What happens when you go race by race?
What happens when you go race by race? Well, it's the same idea. Okay, House seat ratings with a GOP president like back in 2005 and, of course, 2017. More net pickup seat chances. Well, last time around, look at that. Democrats were ahead by 33 seats. How about in 2005? Democrats were ahead by 7 seats. What's going on right now? It's actually Republicans. Actually, Republicans with more net pickup chances at plus 12, according to the Cook Political.
The argument being made is that the Democratic Party is heading into serious political trouble. Critics say the warning signs are already visible, from slipping approval ratings to weakening voter enthusiasm and increasingly competitive battleground states. They point to a pattern in the party's recent strategy, focusing heavily on attacking Trump, highlighting foreign policy controversies, and leaning into messaging battles rather than addressing voter concerns on the ground. According to this view, those tactics are losing effectiveness rather than strengthening support. At the same time, Trump continues to maintain strong political influence, with supporters arguing that his message still connects with voters frustrated by establishment politics and ongoing cultural divisions. From this perspective, the concern is not just about one candidate like AOC. It's about the overall direction of the Democratic Party. Critics argue that doubling down on progressive messaging could deepen the divide with moderate voters and make electoral recovery harder. Supporters of this view believe the party risks long-term damage if it ignores these signals, warning that continued reliance on ideological politics over broader appeal could lead to further electoral setbacks.